welcome back to this channel. I'm so happy that you decided to join me today. It is going to be an interesting / different day than typical. We are not doing any baking. As you can tell from the title, we are doing a sew with me video. My friend asked me to make her a tube top and I loved it so much that I decided to tweak it a little bit and make it my own. It is a journey, let me say that first and foremost, but it was such a fun journey and I can't wait to take you along with me. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Y'all, it feels so good to be back with another video. I'm so happy that I was able to film this and get it uploaded in enough time. I felt super bad last week because there was just so many moving parts that delayed me from filming / editing / doing all the things that I needed to do. So thank you all for your patience and your grace as always. There are quite a bit more of y'all, so welcome. My name is Gabby. I usually make some baking content and I think that's where you found me most, but this week we're going to do a sewing project. My friend, the same friend actually, who asked me to make the pain au chocolat, asked me to make her a top. So I said, sure, I'll do my absolute best and we'll ride with it and see where it goes. And I liked hers so much that I made one that I knew I would prefer. She is more of a tube top girly and I love that for her, but I'm very much not. So there is a Tuckernuck shirt that I got for Christmas that I adore and want in every single color, but I don't have that kind of money for just some regular basics. I'm very grateful for the one I got, but I realized that is not in my immediate future. So I was like, well, I'll just go to the local Hobby Lobby, pay $2 in fabric, and then try to make my own. So that is what we're doing today. I am making a off-the-shoulder tube top. I have a romper. I think I've had for like 2 or 3 years now. I got it at Plato's Closet when I was visiting my in-laws a long time ago, and I fell in love with it. It's from Show Me Your Moo, and it is literally my favorite piece of clothing. I wear it to death every single summer, so I knew I liked it. I knew I liked the style and it fit really well, so I kind of use that as a pattern. My sewing teacher did show me the way to make a pattern for the previous top that I made for my friend, and I kind of used that same pattern as you saw for mine as a guidance, but I still took my own measurements and then adjusted that from there because that was my friend's measurements. Although we are the same height, we are not the same size. So I just took some pieces in or added where it needed to be added and then cut out my fabric, made sure it was laying flat. Ideally, if you are going to try this, iron your fabric 1000%. I was lazy. I just got off work and genuinely didn't want to do all that. So I didn't. And is it a result of my actions that it didn't turn out perfect? Maybe, but I still love it and I still wear it. So I mean, it all comes back to when I first started this channel. I was afraid of messing up and it not being perfect and presentable to people, but honestly at the end of the day, it's just if you tried. And this wasn't going to someone, I wasn't selling it to anyone, I wasn't delivering it to the president or anything. Like, there was no perfection needed in this sew whatsoever, and I honestly decided early on that I wasn't going to treat it as such, and I didn't. And I was actually really happy with the results when I took the pressure off of it needing to be perfect. It turned out perfect for me, and I think that's the most important part. So as you saw, I used that romper that I was talking about as a guide, went around, cut out the armholes so they matched because, again, I know I like the fit of that. Obviously, the torso is going to be a little bit different because that is a romper and this is just a top. So I kept the original length from it. I do believe I should have added a little bit more length on top when I was cutting out the armhole portion, so it would stay a little bit longer. Originally, I measured to where it was almost like a tube top, but when you're adding sleeves, you're going to lose 2 to 3 inches of fabric for your arms to go in. So that is one thing I would immediately change moving into the next shirt that I make, I do have another fabric. Like I said, I wanted to do some basics, so I have a white fabric that I am going to try and learn from this fabric and make a better version. So word of the wise, if you are going to make this, make sure that you're adding an extra 2 to 3 inches for the height. Unless you like a super crop top, that's personal preference. I don't. I would just rather be able to wear it with jeans and with shorts, high-waisted or not. I just want to have that option. So with this, I'm kind of forced to wear high-waisted things, which isn't a terrible thing. I'm tall, so high-waisted usually works best for me. But, you know, if there's ever a time where I just want to wear a pair of shorts and run out the house, I really can't. I don't have that option with this one specifically. So I would definitely add 2 to 3 inches on the top portion when I am measuring it out the next time or making the pattern. Originally, I would just say add that 2 to 3 inches if you're going to copy this exact style of pattern. Now, I don't have a pattern to link below. I know in all of my videos I have all the recipes or videos that I've watched to create the bakes, but unfortunately, like I said, this was one of those, I have an idea in my head. I asked my sewing teacher, I'm sure she's probably tired of me now, because if I ever have an idea, I instantly text her and ask her, okay, how do I do this? And she's received far too many of those outside of her working hours. Forever grateful for that. But this was a passion project and a little concoction that we both made up. So there's no like official pattern. I will link the tube top article / instruction manual that I used originally for my friend's shirt. The steps are fairly the same. The only difference is I added a section to the top where it would go over the shoulder, and then I added room for arms. So besides that, it pretty much is the same setup as a tube top. We just added some armholes, and then this section here that I am sewing together, you didn't see me fully cut them off. They came into 2 separate strips, so here I am sewing the sides together so they will make one loop. So I can add it to the top. Now I'm just finding the middle section so I know that when I put this on, or I pin this onto the top, that it's actually going to fit properly. There is a way, I believe, to where you can make it just one seam, but when I thought about how I wanted it to look when it was on me, I decided 2 seams on the ruffle or over the shoulder section, whatever you want to call it, would look a little bit better than having just one singular one like down the back or in the front, wherever it may be, the seam. So I could cut my pieces in 2 and then sewed them up, so then the seams would be on both of my shoulders. A lot of people aren't going to be looking at my shoulders, so I didn't really have an issue with people seeing my seams, but also at the same time, all seams on my shirt are down the side, so I felt like that was appropriate as well. So it's all about personal preference. Again, this is not a cutthroat, has to be done this way, or it's not going to bake properly. This is kind of just like whatever you're wanting in a shirt or pattern, and then going from there. Now, the one thing I made sure that I did measure properly, you saw a lot of freehand cutting in this, and that's because, again, I just didn't need it to be perfect. It was for a beach trip that I went on, and I just wanted to have it so I could match my friend, and that was really the extent of it. It wasn't anything more than that, and I don't even think we got a picture together, so it wasn't anything that was extremely particular, and I'm grateful for that, because with this new job, I have not had a lot of time to focus on super particular things like that. So this was a nice little brain break that I could use to still create, but create with less attention, if that makes any sense. So as I was saying, the thing that I did measure the most, or to a T, was the circumference of my shoulders. I took the measuring tape that tailors use, and I held one portion in front of me and then wrapped it around my shoulders and made it a little bit tighter, because I knew I was going to be using elastic, and I would rather have it stretch out over time than be way too big and then fall down. So I tied it a little bit tighter around me and got the circumference of my whole shoulder front chest area to make sure that this was going to sit properly. And that is really the main measurement that I would recommend you do over anything, because the elastic is what's going to hold it up at the end of the day. If you don't have elastic that's set to your exact measurements, then you're not going to have a shirt. You're going to have a skirt or something that doesn't hold properly. And also, a pro tip, when you are bringing the elastic around, you're going around to sew it in, pull it to where it's a little bit taut. When I originally did this with the tube top, I didn't pull it. In my sewing teacher's defense, she did tell me, and I was like, it's really not, it can't be that serious, you know? It doesn't need to be like super tight the way she was saying it. One reason being, I thought it was going to snap, so I was like, I don't want to break this thing right now, because this is hour 2 that I've been sewing, and I don't really want to break something and then have to redo it again. So that was my first reasoning. And then second, I was like, surely it's going to work fine. No, she was absolutely right. Definitely pull it a little bit taut as you're sewing along, because that is how your fabric is going to sit. If you don't pull it, then it's going to bunch, and then you're going to have a bunch of random little spots that just aren't flat. And when you're have something that's over your shoulders that people are going to see, in a sense, you don't want pleats, unless you're going after pleats or ruffles over it, then that's a totally different thing, and then you would add a basting stitch, and then that would be intentional. But if you're not trying to intentionally do that, then definitely pull it just a little bit taut so you can do that. And then really it's pretty smooth sailing from here. You just add the elastic as you saw, sew that portion in, and then flip it over on itself. You can see mine's peeking through a little bit. I wish I had found black elastic, or known to, or thought to even look for black elastic. I just honestly didn't. I was in a rush. This again, none of this was to the book. It all comes back to having a base knowledge, which is what I always say in my baking roundups. If you haven't seen one of those, it's just basically where I go over and talk about everything that I baked in the month, and I rate it 1 through 10 or 1 through 5 depending on how many I've made. Best bakes 1 through 5, 1 through 10, worst bakes, and explain how I can make it better. But the number one thing I always say is, like, it all comes down to base knowledge. And sewing is something I'm still fairly new to. I know you don't see it as much because I don't feel as confident in sewing. I do sew a good amount outside of these videos, but I have never sewn clothes before, so this was definitely something that I was learning as I went, and that's honestly okay. And I'm happy with the results. As you can see, it came out so cute, and I just love the way it looks, and I'm so grateful that my friend asked me yet again to go out of my comfort zone and create something that I absolutely love. And as always, I'm so happy that you're here, and I will see you in the next one.